Awesome. All right, we are back and welcome back everybody to the Sweet Life Coaching Podcast. It's me, your girl Tavia, and I'm excited today because you guys know me and I always like to bring in fabulous people. So today I am bringing in someone from the far, far way down under, Miss Samantha Barnett. And correct me again, okay, if I'm wrong. Okay, you are down in Australia, right?
Yes.
Not New Zealand, New Zealand. And you're in Queensland.
I am in Queensland.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So welcome for being here.
Miss, I'm happy to be here.
And do you want me to call you Sammy?
You can call me Sam, Sammy, Samantha, whatever you like. Okay. I go by all three.
Okay, awesome. Well, to the viewers, I'm going to introduce you as to why I'm bringing someone way far down south of the United States of America. And actually, Sammy and we actually met on Instagram. I just kind of saw her profile, and I love what she stood for, you guys. And she's a lot about what I do as well. So I think this is going to be a really good treat. However, there's some topics of discussion that I really wanted to focus on. And that is, today we're going to focus on a little bit about anxiety and depression. And Sammy's going to share her story as a young child and how that came about and how she has battled that. And so if you're out there struggling with anxiety, depression, we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about how the connection with the brain and the gut as well, and how she overcame that. But just a little background on Sammy. So she is a trained nutritionist, and she's also a health coach out of Queensland. Is that how you say it, right? Queensland?
Queensland. Yes, Queensland, that's right.
Yeah. She's the owner of Seeds of Life Nutrition. If you're watching and following on YouTube and watching the video, you can see her little banner in the back of, there she is. Yep. But for the listeners, you'll have to go back and look. But she is the owner of her own business, Seeds of Life Nutrition, also a podcast, Wholehearted Health, and her own podcast, which I hope I can be a guest on here sometime. And we'll talk all things about Lyme and all that stuff that the listeners on your end want to hear about, or anything else you want to hear. But also, she's also a beautiful mother of two young boys, and she also helps her husband in the business construction industry as well, correct?
I do.
Yeah. She has also experienced firsthand the dangers of not slowing down and running on adrenaline. Gosh, we can all relate, right, girls? And she helps overwhelmed and exhausted moms. I love how you said moms, not moms. I love that.
Moms.
It's moms to us in the US, right? But it's moms to you guys. I love it.
One of my closest friends is from Kansas, so I'm used to mums.
Well, and mom. I have English in me, and so I know mom. You know, they say mom in England too. Yeah. Anyways, so she has a good understanding of how the women's bodies work, and how she lets women love themselves again and tells them how to love themselves again through improving their mindset and just through using better nutritional lifestyle choices. So without further ado, welcome again. And we are going to dive right in. And that was a brief synopsis of who you are. Is there anything more that you wanted to add to that before?
Gosh, I could talk forever, but no, I think you've covered most of the little bits there.
Awesome. Cool. So let's first of all, question: how long have you been a nutritionist? I know you have several credentials. And how long have you been on this mission to helping others with their health?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been studying nutrition my whole life, but I actually didn't get qualified until, oh gosh, put me on the spot. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. Okay. But I started my actual clinic up 2 years ago, and word of mouth got out, and the local gym wanted me to come and work with them. But now, since COVID hit, I've sort of just been doing the majority of it online, because we're still going in and out of lockdown in Australia down here. We're pretty lucky in Queensland though. So right. Yeah, so I've been doing that for a while. I don't know what it's like over where you guys are, but with nutrition, anyone can call themselves a nutritionist here. It's not regulated. So if you want to be, so I did 4 years of study, and I'm a clinically trained nutritionist, and I'm registered with an association. So I am trained in it, so that anyone can call himself a nutritionist down here, which is quite scary.
That is kind of scary. I mean,
yes,
that's kind of interesting. Yeah, no, we have it's kind of per state around here. Like I'm in Washington state, and so it's a little bit more lenient. We're more of a liberal state. And so we have more leniency. So it's more state derivative of how,
Yeah.
what you can do and stuff. But for sure, like, no, I'm certified as well.
Mm.
Certified health coach. I'm not a certified nutritionist. Just, I'm going to tell that to people right now. I am not a certified nutritionist. I am a functional nutritional practitioner. Little bit
Uh-huh.
different. So we have all these names, right? There's all different kinds of
Yeah.
names and stuff. But the
Yep.
bottom line is we all love to
Yeah.
help people and we're all doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly. And I think
so
if you've got a passion for it,
yeah.
the certification doesn't really mean anything if you really
No.
truly want to help someone. Yeah.
And speaking of passion, so, going back to when I was reading your bio about your past, and your journey started when you were a child, just like mine. And I would say a lot of us that are in this realm, in this field, we all share one commonality. I think we all have a story behind us, right? We all
Yes,
do.
definitely.
And I think that,
Definitely.
and I always say our mess becomes our message.
Yes. I love
And
that.
yeah, it seems like we all have some kind of mess that we dealt with and it becomes our message, right? So let's talk
Yes.
about your mess that you take me back in time. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we want to talk about anxiety and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I also suffered from that too. But for the listeners out there, I think this is a really important topic that needs to be discussed. And how, if you are struggling with anxiety and you're like, if you've just taken medication, it's just in your head, we need to look a little bit deeper into that, right? So
Yeah.
tell me about
Yeah.
your story. I'll give you the
Okay.
floor.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it all started when I was 11 years old. So I was quite young. And it's funny because my kids are around that age and I'm starting to
Okay.
see some of the similar signs, which is quite alarming. But,
Interesting.
I hit puberty at a young age and my parents were getting a divorce and everything sort of kind of hit me all at once. And I was at a school disco with friends and I was dancing to the Macarena. I didn't know what it was. I felt like I was dying. I felt like the ground was falling.
Yeah.
I couldn't catch my breath. My palms were sweaty. My heart was beating out of my throat. And I was having my first ever panic attack.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what that was. They weren't common back then. Kids never really had anxiety and panic attacks that, like they do today. It
Yeah.
wasn't, I'm in my mid to late 30s now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite a long time ago. And so I thought I was dying. No one was giving me answers. My mom took me from place to place to place, different doctors, CAT scans. And it wasn't until like 6 months or so that I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic
Okay.
disorder. And yeah, that kind of hit hard. It hit hard. And I thought, okay, great. Sure, I've got these diagnoses. But what does that mean? What am I supposed to do with that? They're coming every day. I was having panic attacks like regularly.
Wow.
Every hour on the hour, a panic attack would come. I ended up being the weird girl at school, and I already
Mm.
was quite introverted and shy. So this was just the cherry on top for that. And so I stopped going to school. I was in grade 7 then. So
Mm.
it was my last year of primary school. I'm not sure how your schooling term is over there,
Yeah.
but I was about to go into high school and I stopped going. My mum could not get me to go to school. I was jumping out of moving cars. I didn't actually want to leave my house and I stopped going to all of the places that I was actually having panic attacks and developed agoraphobia, so a
Yep.
fear of leaving my home at the
Oh,
age of
awful.
11. My poor mother. I didn't
Awful.
want to leave. Yeah. So yeah, the school contacted my mom and really wanted me to come back because they obviously knew that I needed to be at school. So they set up a classroom for me in the office. And I started slowly transitioning back in, but still having panic attacks. And
Mhm.
yeah, so those panic attacks and being outcasted and different led to mental health concerns. I ended up with depression. When I hit high school, it was really painful. I was a really introverted person now. I didn't want people to know or draw attention to me because if I had a panic attack, it would be on display.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was an introverted girl with anxiety and, going through an extroverted high schooling system. That's
Yeah.
that's what the schooling systems are, right?
Right.
Yeah, but when I looked back over the past couple of years or so that I had it, I realized that I hadn't actually died and that I hadn't actually fainted and that I could actually work through it over time. And the psychologists that I was seeing were giving me tips and tricks. And I also got a book, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to probably give it to my kids, but it's called Living With It, A Survivor's Guide to Panic Attacks by Bev Asvet. And it's aimed at children, because if you have a look inside, it's like got little sort of cartoony pictures.
I love
And
it.
it's really good. And it tells you how to live with it. And I gave it to all my friends and family to read as well, because there's a section in there that helps you go through that. But yeah, so I started to miss the old me. So from the first time that I had a panic attack, it's like a veil was put over me and I turned into a different person. I wasn't myself anymore. So I started to breathe through the panic attacks and realized there were certain things that were triggering them, certain foods. My gut was just completely not good. I had severe IBS. It wasn't, I didn't know at that time that they were connected. That was later, I realized. But I ended up on a mission to get the old me back. That was my new mission. So I started to improve my nutrition. So I think you guys call it the canteen at the tuck shop at our school. I started ordering more salady, whole foods rather than the processed foods that were in the tuck shop, the canteen. And the
canteen, I love it.
Canteen,
I love
canteen. And I realized that my bowel habits were not normal. They were very common, but not normal. It wasn't something that everyone was experiencing. I found out that exercise completely helped remove my anxiety, which was amazing. So I got into that. And I started to study nutrition. I actually put myself through an acting school as well, got up in front of crowds. But the problem was, as long as I could control everything, control what I was eating, control what I was doing, control the exercise routine, everything seemed to fit in place. But then when I met my husband and we got married, we built a home and we had children, I couldn't control anything anymore. And that's a form of anxiety, is controlling. And that's what I was doing. I was controlling my life to make sure that I didn't have a panic attack or anxiety. So I thought I was healed, but I actually wasn't. And so when we moved away and I had children, I lost my friendship groups because we moved away from where our friends were. My gut health was really, really bad after having children because I had no time I thought I had no time to actually look after myself, and I couldn't control the environment anymore. When you've got kids, you can't control the environment they're in. I developed postnatal depression with my second, and I had 2 jobs. I was working from home, and I was a full-time mom, and I was working in the city as well. So it was really tough. I was struggling, and I had lots of energy. I never stopped having energy, but my mind was like constantly go, 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 a never-ending to-do list, and I was never in the present moment. And my depression just was there, but I was ignoring it. So after having the babies, falling out, my skin was really bad. I had severe sugar cravings. It wasn't good trying to juggle everything when you just don't feel well. But as a mom, I felt like I wasn't able to put myself first because my children and my babies and my husband's business were priority. So reflux, IBS, you name it, it was all there. I was a bit of a mess. So I ended up forcing myself to join a gym because I knew that the exercise was good for my mental health. So I went back and I joined a gym, but because I was running on adrenaline, I decided to join a fitness comp while I was working 2 jobs, raising my children and running around like a crazy person.
Let's just add one more thing, right?
Yeah, let's just add that in. For me, it was more trying to prove that I could do it all. So I did. I signed up to the Australian Women's Natural Body Sculpting Competition in the fitness division.
Cool.
And so, it was pretty awesome. I met some amazing people. And within the first few weeks of doing it, my anxiety completely vanished. I was counting counting all my calories. I'd never done that before, but I was counting calories and measuring things and training hard and getting my mind in the right place, because I had to go up on stage, and I was an introverted person who had panic attacks, but the panic attacks had gone at this stage. So I was if I could get through having anxiety, I could do this, right? But the problem was that about 6 weeks out from comp, my body decided to just crash. All this adrenaline that I had been running on over the last 20 years.
Said no more.
Yeah, no more. And I started to feel like I'd been hit by a truck. I couldn't pick up my
Wow.
kids. I couldn't even walk up the ramp with them without, that lactic acid building up in your
Oh
leg.
yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm like, something's not right. And I couldn't even stand up to do the dishes anymore. I had to sit down.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like, what is going on? And I was just so emotional. And then I started to get sort of like a pain in my side, in my right side under my rib. And I was like, that's
Liver.
not right. Something's going on there. So I thought maybe I have a stomach ulcer.
Yeah.
So I drove myself to the hospital, and they did a heap of tests on me, and I was waiting for them to come back saying, it's a stomach ulcer.
Yeah.
But then the doctor come back, and I was on my own because my hubby was home with the kids, and he said, "Do you live alone?" I said, "No." And he said, "Do you take drugs?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, do you drink a lot?" I'm like, "I don't drink alcohol," because I wasn't drinking at that time. And he said, "Well, the test results have come back and you've got acute liver failure. Your liver's failing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding?"
Wow.
So I rang my mom, and my mom came in because I didn't want to upset the kids and my hubby, because I was, always
Wait.
conscious of that.
How old were you when you said you had acute liver failure? How old were you?
So it would have been, gosh, it would have been about 3 or 4 years ago. It was just before I finished my nutrition degree, because I was studying nutrition at the time.
So you're
So
mid 30 or I don't know how old. You're 30,
yeah, I would
30,
have been at
34,
32,
32. Okay.
33.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it would have been a little
Just
while
so
ago.
the viewer or the listeners have
Yeah,
an-
yeah. So
yeah.
when I was training, everybody was commenting on how incredible I looked, because I was fully ripped. I was very fit looking. And
Yep.
when you see those people in comps, you think, wow, I was the most unhealthiest I'd ever been in my life. And my body was actually crumbling from the inside,
Yep.
but nobody knew. I didn't
Yeah.
tell anyone straight away. I was
Not
ashamed.
amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
I felt so
I've seen
selfish
this
that I had
before.
done this.
I've
Yeah,
seen
and
this
well,
before. Hmm.
yeah, and it's funny because now that
Yeah.
I've, opened up and told people, I hear so many people that end up with kidney failure and all
Yeah.
sorts from this. It's extreme sports. And
Wow.
I was doing, I was eating a lot of food, but it was more like a keto-based diet that I was doing. And
All the fats.
I think all the fats were too much for my liver, plus all the cortisol that it was trying to break
Yep.
down and all the toxins from my gut.
Yep.
It was too much for my body. So I
Yeah.
ended up continuing with the comp, but I didn't train anymore because I put so much effort into it. I stopped training and I actually started eating carbs again, like a lot of them.
Good. Good.
Yes. And my body fat percentage was down to 9% when I got sick, because you had to be under 10% to enter the
Oh,
comp.
right. Right.
And a lot of our estrogen is made in our fat cells in our legs. And I stopped producing estrogen. My period stopped for like 7 months.
Yep.
But I did go to the stage and I took out third. So no one on the stage knew that I actually had liver failure while I was up there. So that was quite
Incredible.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, I ended up, once I finished nutrition, I ended up using myself as a patient, because I needed to fix myself if I was going to fix other
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
I realized that I had developed orthorexia, so I had a fear of unhealthy foods, and I'd push that onto my kids. I was obsessed with not eating sugar or anything that was not organic or processed. It became an obsession, and it was not good. So with that, so I went and saw an eating psychologist to help me through that. I saw an integrated doctor down the Gold Coast who did a bunch of tests on me because I just didn't feel right. And she said I had severe adrenal fatigue. I was producing no cortisol anymore. My adrenals were screwed because I'd been pumping it out for God knows how long.
So for the listeners, I want to pause you 1 second just to tell people what
definitely.
adrenal fatigue is. Or those who don't know adrenal fatigue, adrenal glands sit on the top of your kidneys, guys. And they're like little walnuts is how I describe them, basically in your back side. And a lot of people, adrenal fatigue is where a lot of people are tired, they have fatigue and they don't know they have adrenal fatigue. And your cortisol can be going up and down. If you're eating a lot of sugar, it can affect your adrenals, for stress and cortisol. all that affects your adrenals. So that's what she's talking about.
Yes.
I just want to point that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So that was out of whack. And I also had a major hormonal imbalance because of my liver failure. And yeah, all your hormones are broken down and removed through your liver. That wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, she did some genetic testing with me as well. And I found out both my parents carried the MTHFR gene.
Have that.
Yes. So
me too.
Yeah, I'm like, great. This is just great news. So yeah, I wasn't actually absorbing any zinc or folate properly. I wasn't using it properly. So that was linked to anxiety and heart disease, which is all through our family. Wow. And I was getting a lot of heart palpitations and waking with poor circulation at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, I did not realize how sick I was.
We have a lot of commonalities. Yeah. I can relate to a lot of that.
Yeah. And my youngest son, it's funny because he always used to say, Mummy has cold arms. So I'm like, well, that explains a lot. My thyroid, we have thyroid disease and autoimmunity in the family. And my thyroid, while it was still functioning okay, she did the full thyroid test and there were thyroid antibodies there. So my thyroid was actually being attacked.
Oh my
gosh. There was an underlying autoimmune disease there. So latent Hashimoto's was there.
Yeah.
Which was impacting on my metabolism. So she also tested me and we found I had the COMT genetic variation, which meant that my body wasn't actually producing enough of the enzyme to break down adrenaline. So that actually explains a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was, when you meet people and they're just constantly doing things and they don't ever stop and you think, wow, they've got so much energy. That's me. I don't know how to sit down and stop. Well, I'm better at it now, but yeah, that was me. I just always was, I always like, I could do that. I can do that. I can do that. And yeah, I think once you hit your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you've been living that lifestyle, not so good.
Right.
So, yeah. Wow. And I had major mummy guilt. I had to actually stop and slow down. That was the only way I was going to heal. And every time I sat on the couch, I had just waves of mummy guilt coming in and feeling like I wasn't helping anyone by doing that.
Guilt.
Yeah, I conditioned myself. So I ended up going away. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Libby Weaver over there. She's pretty huge over here. She did
Libby Weaver?
Yeah, she's great. Dr. Libby Weaver.
I'll look her up. I don't know.
She's fabulous. She actually did a weekend away. It was called Beautiful Me, I think it's called, down at the beach down here. Okay. So I went with a good friend of mine and straight away, when you meet someone and they're very intuitive, as soon as she met me after spending a week away with me, she said to me, your problem here, that's your problem. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, your problem is you're a people pleaser. And this is at the core of it for you. You have spent your whole life doing stuff for everyone else that it's impacted on your health. You're trying to seek approval from everyone. And when you don't get that, you go above and beyond to get it. And I'm like, I just burst into tears because I started thinking about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is me. That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to please everyone. So I just was insane. So I came back and I said to my hubby, I need to change. I need to change my thoughts. I need to change my behaviors. I don't know if you've heard of the 5 love languages. Yeah, I did that with my hubby and it turns out mine is acts of service and his is touch. So I was constantly doing my acts of service for everyone because that's how I show love to people. And it wasn't necessary because it didn't mean anything to him. So that made sense to me not to do that anymore, which was wonderful. I started prioritizing my sleep because I always was not enough time, don't worry about sleep, but sleep's like so crucial for
when we heal
everything. Exactly. So I made that a priority, particularly with adrenal fatigue, you kind of need to. And I stopped labeling myself and shoulding myself. I stopped labeling myself as lazy and I should be doing this. I should be doing the dishes. I should be cooking dinner for kids. As moms, we do that all the time. I switched from running and doing HIIT classes to meditation and yoga. More mindful movement. I started doing more walks in nature and getting out in nature. Awesome. I started really looking at my gut health. So I did some testing and I found out I had SIBO,
Yep.
small intestinal bacterial overgrowth,
Yep.
and I had really low stomach acid, which was as a result of constantly being on the go. I was in survival mode. My stomach wasn't
Yeah.
actually producing stomach acid. Yeah, I had to calm my farm. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've learned to settle down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everything is urgent, and
Yeah.
change my thought patterns and my perception of urgency
Yeah.
and become present. Yeah. So that I don't
Wow.
need to be achieving all the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a quick fix. It was kind of like changing your lifestyle.
Oh
And a
yeah.
lot of people, they come to me to
Oh
fix
yeah.
their anxiety, and it's not a quick fix. You need to
Mm-mm.
undo years and years of what you've done. And
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be doing next year, I'm going to be doing NLP, neuro linguistic processing, and
NLP is
hypnotherapy.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be qualified in that, so I can, because I find with nutrition, I give people tools and advice.
Yep.
They take it home, and because they
Yeah.
have the same behaviors and patterns,
Right.
they don't make those changes. And that's
Right.
the bridge between,
Yep. The
nutrition and
mind. Yep.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
So now
gosh.
that's what I do in my clinic. I help other women
Yeah.
on the same trajectory path as
Yeah.
me,
Right.
to help find their purpose and their reasoning behind why they do what they do every day. Why do you get up and do the same thing every day? Be
Yeah.
true to yourself, be authentic, and love your body, listen to it. Because when you're constantly on the go, you can't
Yeah.
stop and listen to your body.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh, I've been talking nonstop.
No, this is great. No, I wanted to let you just go with this because I think a
Yeah.
lot of women could relate to you. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the things you said, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Like with me, I'm like, you and I are very similar in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but like I said, you took your mess and it became your message, and it didn't happen overnight, and going back to the 11-year-old little child down there, 11 years old, having anxiety, there was something mental that had happened back then. Have you ever gone back in time and actually kind of visited that to see kind of what
Yeah, I
triggered
did.
that?
I worked in with Amy Mingen, she's a hypnotherapist here who
Yes.
works with
Yeah.
me. She did timeline therapy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I love
it's
it.
yeah, we've got anxiety all through our family. And a
Same.
lot of it came down to sort of the way that women in our family have conditioned ourselves to believe that we are less, we are not authoritative figures. I don't know. I think subconsciously things kind of happen that way,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not enough. And for
Yeah.
me, the anxiety of trying to fit in at school and
Mm-hmm.
I think for humans,
Yeah.
when we think about all the times that we're stressed, I don't
Mm-hmm.
like to use the word stress, but when we think about those
It's
times,
stress. Yeah.
so yeah, when you think about, so for example, if you're trying to get to work and you're running late, are you stressed about the fact that you're running late? Or are you stressed about the fact that you're worried about how people will perceive you when you rock up late? They're going to see you as,
Perception.
lazy,
Mm-hmm.
not reliable. And
Right.
to your core, you know that you're honest, you're amazing, you're a good mother. But as soon as someone sees you outside how you know you are deep down, it's like a stab. And you
Yeah.
think, wow, this person doesn't love me the way that I want to be loved. And I think
Right.
it really comes down to being loved, because it's babies.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be loved. Otherwise we don't get looked after, right?
Yep.
And I think that's conditioned into us at a really young age. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I think
I
that
believe
that
so.
comes down to a lot of it for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
realizing that you can get that from yourself. You don't need to look outside to get that love. You can love yourself. And then when you get a true understanding of who you are, you can accept that, or you can actually look at ways to improve who you are from the inside, through mind and body. So
Yeah. Right.
working with yourself. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the pathway to a healthier you, not the fancy diets, but
Right.
getting to the core as to why you do what you do every day.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I have a lot of clients that come to me and they've done like keto, or they've done Atkins or the carnivore diet. They've done
Yes.
these different diets. Right. And then those aren't diets, guys. Or I should say, I mean, they're diets, but they're not lifestyle modifications. They're not
No,
lifestyle
they're
changes.
not.
They're not long-term. They're a means to get you somewhere, but half the time, or
Yeah.
more than half of the time, it fails later on.
Oh, it
And
does. It's yeah.
it's because of what you said. It's like, and we have to do this mindset shift. We have to do the inner work, is what I call it, the inside work, right? And like what you did is you did the inner work, not just the outside work, right? It wasn't just like, oh, take a pill, take this, change your diet, which is great to change, sometimes we need medications. I'm not going to say that, to help with anxiety and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Totally. I'm not anti-medication, but do what you need to do. But the bottom line is there is always a root cause. There's always something deeper, something inner. And that's what you found. And I love that how you shared that of, it took you several years, and then these layers upon layers that you went through, right? That just stacked up until boom, you went to ER and they're like, oh my God, liver failure. Like
the awakening. And I'm still discovering who I am. It's like a never ending journey, really. Isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I'm in my 40s and you're in your 30s, and like, it's ever evolving, ever changing. We're always still learning.
Chapter.
Yeah, absolutely.
New experiences. Oh, how do I do with this one?
Right. And for me, I'll share my story on your podcast some other time, but just a little synopsis, is like, it was about 28, 29 when I started getting symptoms of, I wasn't feeling good. Right. And then throughout my 30s, it was like, things started adding up, blah, 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 it's like, and then 41 is when I got my diagnosis with Lyme disease. Yeah. And so, but if I look back in time, like how you did, if you can channel back what you said, the time lapse, right? And I do this with my clients a lot too. Do you do that with your clients sometimes? Do you go back in time?
Yeah. The pathway in is the pathway out.
Yeah, so, it's so important. And if you're listening out there and if you've gone to a nutritionist or someone and they haven't done that, it's important to find those key points. And when you were talking about the anxiety, I had anxiety too. I had nervousness, all of that. Almost all the things you were talking about, I could totally relate to. Getting along, being fitted in, stuff. I remember when I was in gymnastics, I was 10 years old and I was getting tall. I'm 5'8". I'm pretty tall for a girl. And I remember my coach saying, she's not going to make it. And I was doing a vault. And the message was, you're not enough.
Yeah.
You're not good enough.
That's it.
That has still stood with me. I went through some therapy just last year. And that came up for me again. Yeah. It's crazy how these things trickle into our adulthood.
Yes, exactly.
It's
and
crazy.
It's funny, just some simple little things. I went down, I worked in with a fashion coach who helped me. She was amazing. And I said to her, I never wear earrings. I don't like them on me. And she said to me, why don't you wear earrings? I said, I've never really thought about it. And then when I thought about it, I remember at school, a kid said to me that I looked like a boy when I wore earrings. Aww. And so from that day on, I never wore earrings. And it wasn't until I actually thought it said subconsciously
the
buried
message
itself somewhere in there. And now I wear earrings all the time. And I just think, gosh, isn't it funny how something that someone said to us at school can have such an impact on us later in life? Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So, okay. You shared so much information. I'm kind of like at this point, I'm like,
I did overshare.
No, this is awesome. I'm just like, I'm trying to absorb all this. And for the listeners out there, I'm like, you shared so much great stuff. I might have to have you on another time and we have to talk about some of these deeper other things that were going on. I'd like to. This was a great overview. So let me ask, let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. And in the sense of, I want to go back to the anxiety really quick and spend just a little bit more time on the anxiety. So if persons out there, that was my topic a little bit that I wanted to get on, but with a person that's experiencing anxiety as an adult, or let's talk about a child, right? What could you do as a mother? And your mother, obviously, what would you advise your moms out there to do? What would be a good step for them?
Yeah. So for me, I've got a child with anxiety now, and it's really hard on the other end. Yeah. But I guess I'm lucky in the sense that was the child with anxiety. So it's really easy to relate to that. But it comes down to building resilience. And I do find sometimes it's easy to just let them not have the anxiety and choose. So for example, if they're anxious about going to school and they're really getting upset about it, you go, okay, it's all right. We don't have to do that. That's feeding their anxiety monster. And it's about doing things to help build resilience. So for me, my anxiety hung around for so long because I kept avoiding it and not actually facing it. So, putting your kid, it's hard because you don't want to. But for my child, for example, when we went to rock climbing, he creates there's the amygdala in your brain. And I know that I've read a book. It's a really great book. It's called Quiet by Susan Cain.
Okay.
I would recommend reading that to anyone who has an anxious child. But yeah, we have this amygdala in our brain, and often children who are very anxious, their amygdala is larger than the average. So we have more fear. Anything that's new, we automatically don't want to do it because we fear change, we fear the unknown. So for my son, for example, we went to a rock climbing place and he'd never done it before. It was for a birthday party, and he freaked out and he'd made it up in his head that this was too dangerous for him. He'd never done it and he didn't want to try it just in case something bad happened. There's always the just in case. So he sat there and he missed out, and I missed out on so much as a child because of that. I didn't travel because I was scared of flying on a plane. I didn't ever do anything. I didn't join the singing, the choir. I didn't do anything at school. And now I'm making up for that, obviously, but you miss out because your anxiety just captures you. Yeah. And so for me with my son, I'd say to him, I explained to him, it's only because it's something you don't know. But think of all the things that you've done that you don't know that weren't that scary in the end. And you actually enjoy doing them now. So I do them with him and I show them that they're not scary. And the more times you do that, the more resilience you build, and the more that connection in your brain to your amygdala, your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala are going to talk more. And the prefrontal cortex is going to say to your amygdala, we've done this before. We know this person, they're not scary. But if you don't allow your amygdala to talk with your prefrontal cortex at all, you're never, ever going to know whether it's safe. And your child is constantly going to continue to hide from that anxiety monster. And it's just going to keep festering and growing and growing and growing until it just gets out of control. Yeah, so that's from that point there. But there's definitely things you can do with diet to stop that anxiety. So I found for me, I reduced grains and sugar. Sugar definitely for huge. Sure. Yeah. Not so much grains, I guess, gluten, because we still have oats and things in our family.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely working on the gut. The gut's huge when it comes to anxiety. And I found that out.
Oh, yeah. It's a game changer.
Yeah, definitely.
Your second brain. We also got the second brain.
Yeah. So definitely looking at making sure they've got good gut bacteria levels as well. And yeah, just working on those sorts of things are huge. And sleep as well, lack of sleep, and what they're exposed to as well. So I do find my eldest gets more anxious when he plays. I'm sure you've heard of Fortnite.
Oh yeah, when he Fortnite, like building Fortnite, a fort. Okay.
I know the game. So it's hard being a mum these days because all kids want to be gamers and YouTubers, right?
Right.
So I know. So trying to down-regulate that as much as you can. But I guess being an example. So when my son sees me doing things that are scary and taking risks and doing things, he can see me as an example because he knows that I struggled with anxiety as a child. And investing in this book, this one here, is going to be huge because it's something that you can read, and it goes through exactly what they're feeling, what a panic attack is. And so you can kind of get an idea of what they're going through. So they feel like they're with you because you can understand it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Have you ever heard of the 5 techniques where you go, I think it's like 5 you count down when you're anxious, where you go like 5 shapes, 4 sounds, 3. Yeah. I can't remember the order.
I do that with my clients, but I do it with 5 senses.
5 senses. So, it's like, okay. So tell me.
5 things you can see, 5 things,
5 things see.
4 things you can smell. You go through all the senses.
Yes. Touch. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So
I've seen that many.
Slowing down, meditation, giving them activities they can do where they can be present. So puzzles are really good. I actually am a huge jigsaw puzzler. I get lost. When you get lost and you think, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 2 hours. That's what you need more of, because your brain switches off and you lose track of time and everything around you.
Right.
And getting some of those in for your kids, and then getting them active as well is important as well. So
right. All good things. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, no, these are all great tips. I mean, oh gosh, I thank you for sharing all those. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think those are really, really helpful. I've learned a lot just from you. just So this is great. Awesome, Sammy. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. Is there any final words, any final thoughts you want to share to any of the listeners out there today?
Oh gosh. I guess just slowing down. That's where it's at. If we're
Yeah.
constantly on the go, it's hard to listen to your body because your body is constantly talking to you through signs and symptoms. That's
Right.
how she talks to you or he.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
you need to slow down and listen to that. Slow down, and
Yeah.
slow living's where it's at. And we're all at a fast pace. We've
Yeah.
only sort of it's only been the last 50 to 100 years where women in particular have had so many different things happening.
Yeah.
Everything's so fast, and our hormonal systems do not understand it. We are
Right.
not designed for the world we're in. So slowing
Not.
down as often as you can, and getting to know whether that urgency is really just a perception that you've created in your mind or not. Yeah.
I love that advice. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. And I love what you said about we're not in the world that we used to, before. It's
No.
definitely different. And then take the whole nother topic is talking about detoxing and the toxins we're exposed
Yes.
to, and as opposed to, our children are exposed to so much more than we were, and
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So that's a whole nother topic too. And we have to
Yeah.
make sure that we are properly detoxing our body and cleansing our body, eating whole foods, eating good.
Oh, there's
Oh,
so many
it's
factors.
I
And
know
that's the
so much,
thing.
right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we've been around on the planet for 250,000 years, Homo sapiens. Our stress response and our hormonal system has not changed. We are still
Yeah.
responding the
Good
same,
point.
but we have
Yeah.
so many more stresses and triggers out there now, whether they're
Oh,
food
yeah.
related or
Right.
psychological, whatever they
Yeah.
are. They're everywhere. Can't get away from them.
Right. That's why we need health coaches to help remind like you and
Exactly.
me. So
Exactly.
awesome.
Exactly.
So I want you to plug yourself. I want you to tell people who are listening how they can find you, and they can like you, and they can follow you on Instagram, right? And what is your
Yeah.
handle? What's your
Yep.
handle?
Okay, so you can find me at Seeds of Life Nutrition on Instagram, where I'm particularly active in my stories with my little cavoodle Midas. You'll see him a lot in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can also listen to me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well on my Wholehearted Health and Nutrition. And I offer one-to-one consults where I do blood pathology analysis, looking at it from optimal
Nice.
ranges, not the reference ranges that the doctors use. I do supplement checks, I do nutrition analysis, and I also just do the standard consultation if you want a full consultation with me.
Awesome.
I'm also running at the moment a 6-week group program that I do. I find most women that come into me with all these cascading problems, their number one concern is weight loss.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that's just the way
we are.
everyone's
Yeah.
conditioned.
Mm,
So yeah, I approach it differently though. It's called weight loss done differently. So
love
we
it.
look at all the factors that impact on excess body fat. Why is your
Hmm.
body holding on to body fat? So we go through all the body systems and
Love
we
it.
work together on that. So gut, adrenals, thyroid, liver,
Yep.
all of those systems. So I'm doing an intake every 2 months in the group. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
in my Instagram
Okay,
link as well. You
great.
can see that there.
So
Yeah.
you can find you at Seeds of Life Nutrition on Instagram then. And then there's also links to your podcast and if they want to book a consult with you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Sammy, so much
Thank
for being
you.
here. This was so informational, so great. I hope you listeners out there, if you're listening to this, I hope you got a nugget of information, like I always say, and you could take it and apply it to your daily life. And I thank everybody for listening today, watching, if you're watching on YouTube. And again, thank you so much, Sammy. I will be in touch with
Sure.
you. Have a
See
great
ya.
rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Sweet Life Coaching Podcast. See ya. Bye-bye.